Okay, Kim, we are back.
We
It's
are.
almost Valentine's Day. We're recording
Yes.
this on the 13th, and I'm reminded now that tomorrow I'm just to go get a Valentine's gift and scramble. Erica, don't watch this
I was
yet.
gonna say maybe
Yeah,
don't put that
watch it
part.
yet. Anyway, this is like one of those holidays I'm so bad at remembering. It's just not great. But anyway, we watched two Valentine's Day movies. We watched My Bloody Valentine, the 2009, was it 2009? 2009 version, and then Valentine, which was 2001.
And I also watched the original My Bloody Valentine, made in 1981.
You didn't fall asleep as you were dozing, as I recall.
I fell asleep for a scene, but I don't think I missed anything important.
That says a lot about that. And that was, you said 81? Is that when it came out?
81, yeah.
Okay.
And it was interesting. It's different. I mean, like, it's got a different killer.
Oh, okay. Then what we got in the remake.
Yeah.
So, and just, I guess, to keep things moderately abbreviated, I'm not gonna like summarize the entirety of the plot for each of these, but which one do you want to talk about first? Is there one that you're like, let's just jump in with, I don't know, whichever one?
I feel like we should talk about Valentine first, because I personally feel like Valentine is a more quality film, and then it'll be more fun to talk about My Bloody Valentine because it's less quality.
I would agree with that. So just right off the bat, I actually would give both of these movies 3 out of 5 stars. I don't usually assign ratings to these things. I think that they're equally good in that regard. However, I agree that I think Valentine, generally speaking, is better made, maybe, or more cohesive. Like, I don't know if that's the right word.
Yeah, the story is stronger.
There's just more entertainment value in My Bloody Valentine.
Yes,
probably.
Well, yes. And I mean, if you think about it, like, I actually should have looked at the ratings. I don't remember. But My Bloody Valentine is much bloodier than Valentine. So it's like, yeah, if you want a gory, slashery 3D horror movie.
And I didn't even get to watch it in 3D. Like, I mean,
I did. I think I saw it in theaters in 3D.
And I mean, clearly, and I asked you this before we watched it, like, it very clearly was meant to be seen in 3D. Like, it reminded me of whatever Jason movie it was, where it's like you have to have the red and blue glasses to see what's going on. It's like a pickaxe coming straight at the screen or whatever. Like, that part of it was kind of funny. And there was actually Jaws 3D. Did you ever see Jaws 3D?
Yes, I love Jaws 3D.
Do you really? Okay. Yeah.
Yes, I do. I watch that very frequently, okay?
Is it like your favorite of the Jaws movies? You seem really adamant about this.
It's probably my second favorite.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah,
I do really like that one.
I don't know what my second favorite would be. I mean, obviously, Jaws is like a masterpiece, so it's kind of hard to talk about sequels to that. But anyway, okay, so Valentine. I will say the thing that I liked about this movie is that it very much is like a time capsule. Like, to me, it's like, this is like the late 90s, early 2000s, whodunit, slasher, Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer type of thing. So I appreciated that about it. And it was kind of funny watching like the CRT televisions that are in the movie and just some of the outdated stuff that's there. Plot wise, though, just in a nutshell, it's exactly that, right? It's a whodunit sort of thing. It starts with a kid being bullied in middle school at a dance. And like, I feel like in all these movies, the bullying is like so extreme. I mean, this is like Carrie level stuff with like the stuff being dumped. Whatever, you know. And as I recall, he's under the bleachers with this girl who is like, oh yeah, I'll dance with you. And they're kissing. And these guys are like, hey, is he bothering you? And she lies and gets in trouble. Fast forward all these years later, all these people are now grown-ups, and they start being killed one by one. And they're getting these Valentines with the initials JM. And it was Jeremy Melton. Is that right? Did I get it right? So they start, you know, a police officer or a detective gets involved. They start doing an investigation, and it kind of unravels into the reveal. Should I go ahead and talk about the reveal of what's like at the end of this thing, or am I getting way too far ahead of myself? We can wait on that if we need to.
Let's wait.
Okay. Because I actually have a couple of questions about that. I thought the reveal didn't make a ton of sense, or the reveals plural. And I'll explain what I mean with that. You know what I'm talking about. I know you do.
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, Kim, what did you like about this movie? Like, what's your
and this is where I feel like we talked a little bit about this with like the Scream franchise. Like, I love Scream 1, 2, and 3, but I saw Scream 1, 2, and 3 when I was younger, and I saw Valentine years ago. So like I
Right.
loved it because I was like in the David Boreanaz like zone. Like I had watched Buffy. I knew who he was. Like I was into that. So that's I think if I had seen it today, I think maybe I wouldn't love it as much. But I do. I love the whodunit slashers. It's not my favorite whodunit slasher, but I
Yeah.
very much enjoy like who's behind the mask. We don't know. There could potentially be a couple of people motivated enough to be doing this. And I do feel like they introduce one or two valid other options. I feel like overall it's not as strong as like I Know What You Did Last Summer or Scream, where you like you're
Hmm.
really not sure and then it's like, "Oh, wow, I can't believe it was that person." Like I never felt like there was one red herring that I was like, "I really thought it was that person and I'm shocked it's not."
Yeah, I think in my mind I had it boiled down to who it was and one other person, and I couldn't really decide up until the end, who that was going to
Yeah.
be. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, and this is not. I wouldn't say this is like an overly gory movie. I mean, it definitely has blood for
I
sure, but
love the death scenes.
yeah, the death scenes are pretty good. I mean, they're very, again, late 90s, early 2000s type of
Yeah.
death scenes, which is not to say they're bad. Actually, I thought the opening sequence was good in the morgue. Like, I like all that with Catherine. I
Yeah.
didn't know Catherine Heigl was in this. Like, that was like a total
And
surprise
in
to
the
me.
trivia, she apparently like disowns this movie.
Oh,
She didn't
really?
read the whole script. She just read the scene she was in. And then after seeing the final cut of the movie, like pretends like it never happened, which I'm like, excuse you, Catherine Heigl. Okay, come on.
I
Like,
mean, like, it's not bad. Like, I don't know why she would,
no.
like, why that would be the reaction to it,
I disown Catherine Heigl. That's where I've decided to go. I'm like, never
Yeah.
mind.
So, but the killer in this one, so every slasher movie's got to have a killer with a mask or some kind of get up that makes their
Yes.
persona obscure. In this one, it's a Cupid mask. I guess it's Cupid, isn't that what it's supposed to
Yeah.
be? It was at
Yes.
first I was like, is that a baby? Like, is that a baby mask?
Well,
Like, what is this?
Cupid is a baby.
Right. A
So
winged baby with a bow and arrow, right?
yes. So it is a baby. It's Cupid baby.
And the mask is one that we see in the opening shot in the middle school, right? And there's somebody in
Right.
the gym at the
Yes,
dance
and it's not
wearing
the
it or something.
exact same, but it is. It's
Yeah.
reminiscent of that mask. Yeah.
So, the plot is a lot of back and forth with, there's a lot of weird behavior, and the main characters from the middle school eventually determine that JN has to be this kid. Like, it just comes up in conversation, like, oh, yeah, we were pretty rough on this kid. Like, we bullied him pretty
Yeah.
hard. Where is he now? Nobody knows. And meanwhile, this police officer is trying to track the kid down. But weirdly, this guy's a creep, right? Like, there's this whole scene in the police station with, what's the actress's name? I can't remember it.
Denise Richards.
Yes, where he's like, he's got like his hand on her thigh, and he's like, "So let's talk about this unspoken thing between us."
Yeah.
Where is this coming from? Like, this is just out of the
Right.
blue. I
And
mean,
he does it in one of those fishbowl rooms where there's windows everywhere.
yeah,
I'm like, well, this movie was made in the early 2000s because he just sexually harassed somebody and nobody
right.
cares.
I was like, was
So
this pre
cool.
human resources? Like, this is
Yes, it
crazy.
was. Yes.
So yeah, so that was weird. And I guess my thing is, are they trying to make us think he's one of the killers or the killer, like because of his weird behavior? Like, and at first, I will say, I'm like, okay, so has this Jeremy kid gone bald and now he's on the police force, and like this is him? Is that sort of
I never went there with it. I don't know what the point of that scene was, to be totally honest.
yeah. So there's also a character, gosh, I can't remember his name, who ends up staying at this wealthy woman's house, like this girl, Campbell. He's kind of out of the blue,
Yes.
but he's sort of like one of these kids who just takes women for their money, like, or one of these people that takes women for their money. He sees that they've got it, and he pretends to be in love with them or like them or whatever, and he just stays there and just milks them for what they're worth, and then moves on, I guess. And he was a valid option, maybe, for
Yes.
who Jeremy could have been.
Because they don't know what he looks like, and that's what they're basically like. Who's new in your life? Who's new that you don't really know that could potentially be this killer? And that's why he becomes a suspect.
Yeah. So, and I guess we could talk about some of the death scenes before we get to the reveal of who the killers are, I guess. So, what's your favorite death scene in this movie? You have
The
one?
hot tub.
The hot tub's mine too. I think the drill, all of that was cool. I'm trying to think if there was another one. I did like the morgue scene. That wasn't an especially creative kill though, just like a throat slash.
No, but that was a good
Whatever.
scene. Yeah,
It was a good
was
scene.
when she goes to slice the body and it breathes, which is like not super realistic, but cool and creepy. I would not want that to happen to me.
Yeah. That was cool. I remember there was the character that gets killed by the jagged glass, like, in the spa, the sauna area, that kind of thing. That was okay.
There's some bow and arrow
Oh, that's
shooting.
right. That's right. In the art exhibit where people are just like giant mouths talking and it's like super abstract. Yeah, that that was pretty funny. Okay, so let's talk about the reveal. So we get to the end of this film, and what was the guy's name again? The killer.
His name is Adam Carr.
Is this the actor or the character?
No, the character, her boyfriend. So David Boreanaz plays
right.
Adam Carr, the boyfriend who's like somewhat of an alcoholic, but can't possibly be Jeremy Melton because she says she knows him. And she's like, no, I know his mom is this and his dad is this. But she never says she's met his parents.
Right.
She just, because Jeremy Melton's parents are dead. They died in a fire, suspiciously. So that's where it's like they're trying to throw you off that it could be him because she apparently knows all this stuff about him, but they never, it's just enough to be like, oh, but then also like, wait a second.
And so I'm wondering if you can explain this piece of it to me. And I don't know if it was just meant to be like, this is a telltale sign that this guy's the killer. Like, why does his nose always bleed before he kills somebody? Like, is that just...
Because so that I personally think it's because it's supposed to be a visual cue to us because that's what happened to Jeremy when he was at the dance.
Right.
So I think you're supposed to know so that you can have that final reveal at the end. Because if you didn't have that, I don't know how you would ultimately know who the killer really is.
Well, and I think that's exactly what it is. I think it's a visual cue, but I guess like, do they ever physiologically explain like he's having a blood vessel burst?
It's trauma. It's just trauma. Okay, people get ugly.
I'm over analyzing this. Okay, so anyway, it's revealed.
It's a metaphor for the internal struggle of something.
Is that what it is?
No.
Okay, so it's revealed that he is, I guess, mostly the person behind the mask, but then also it's the other woman or girl. Like what? So what was happening at the end here, right? So I don't really understand what they were going for with that.
So I interpret it as he is the killer. And this is how I always interpreted it, but then also the trivia confirmed it for me that he's the killer. He has knocked Dorothy out and put the costume on her. And then before she can sort of reveal herself, he shoots her dead, right? Like he's the one that shoots her. It's very much like that thing in Halloween where Jamie Lee Curtis beheads the guy. And then they say, that's not what happened. His tongue was cut out. Who killed somebody else? Like, that's what that is. And the trivia says there was originally a scene that showed him doing that. Knocking her out and but that revealed that he was the killer.
Right.
And they didn't want to do that.
That makes sense that they cut it. I guess my thing was like if she had duct tape over her mouth but I guess then
I agree. But then she wouldn't think that Dorothy was the killer.
Right, exactly. So that would mess it up. It was a weird like turn of events from like, why is she walking around in this outfit? Like, I guess I was
it's
like,
supposed to be that she's so like dazed from just having been knocked out and then he shoots her.
Okay, right. And she's got the mask on and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. And in some interpretations, it does leave it open that maybe she was somehow involved, not in his plot for revenge, but like maybe she really did kill Campbell because she figured out he was screwing her out of money and stuff like that.
Well, and she was one of the kids that was getting picked on too, a little bit, right?
Yeah,
I mean, not to the extreme that Jeremy was, but she was. Yeah. So there's a little bit of motivation there potentially.
Yeah. So there are interpretations where she was a killer as well. Right. I prefer to go with the interpretation that it was all him and he used her to push off the blame.
Okay. That makes sense. Because it could be that I watched this after the Super Bowl last night. So like this movie literally ended at like 12:30, something like that. And so I'm half awake. I'm like, what happened? Why is it two people? So let me ask, because I want to see if your response to this is the same as my response. What would you say is the thing you like least about this movie or the thing that you found the most annoying? They could be the same thing. I don't know. Maybe they're different, but
I wasn't prepared for this question.
I know. I wanted to get a fresh reaction from you, Kim.
the the thing I like least about this is I don't have an answer.
And that's okay if you don't.
I do feel like I said earlier that the red herrings they presented to me were not sufficient enough that
Yeah.
I think someone could really say very early on, it's clearly him and be right about that. I like to be wrong. I like to think it's
Yeah.
somebody and find out that I was wrong. And I don't know that that would totally happen all the time in this movie.
Yeah, if I can guess accurately who the killer is, I don't love it. And that actually was part of my problem with Bloody Valentine a
Yeah.
little bit. I
Yeah.
mean, I wasn't 100% sure, but I was like, bet I'm right. Like, and up until the end, but so the
Mhm.
thing that I did not, and I wouldn't say, I don't know if like the least is the right way to phrase this, but the thing that I found the most annoying about it, and I know it was meant to be comic relief, but that guy that she's dating early on, who's like, Jason, like he's talking about himself in the third person.
Oh, yes.
And he makes a couple of appearances in the movie. Like, he's there a
Yes.
couple of times, right? Like, that
And it's
character
totally just red herring appearances.
yeah, like, it just and I get that it was supposed to be kind of funny, and, like, this person is very purposely obnoxious. Like, as a viewer, you're not supposed to like this person, but it was just
Yeah.
like, I cannot listen to this dialogue. Like, it was just really grating on me for some reason.
It was really bad, especially because they do try to turn him into a red herring later on, and he shows up at the art show, and he has this really creepy exchange and then you never see him really again. And I think it was like, we just need to really throw people off here, so let's do this. And it's like, it
Yeah.
didn't really work.
So that's Valentine. Like, and again, I think it's actually for that era a pretty solid like slasher movie. Not anything amazing, but like like not nearly. I mean, it's not bad. I would say it's not bad at all.
Yeah,
Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, it is one of my favorite holiday themed horror movies.
And we're I mean, there's sort of a limit, I think, on like Valentine horror movies. I mean, you've got like a handful that you can sort of draw from, and I'm going to do some digging for next year. Maybe there's some like really obscure, like Cupid massacre type of thing that we can,
I'm sure there is,
that we can find and review, which I'm sure would be highly entertaining. But we'll shift gears and talk about My Bloody Valentine. So that was 2009. So obviously a little more recent. I mean, still 2000s when it was released.
Yeah.
But it felt like a more recent movie to me. It felt a little bit more up to date.
Yeah. Yeah.
And actually, when I was watching it, I realized that I had seen bits and pieces of it on TV. Like, never the whole thing, but like usually like the first 5-10 minutes where they're at the mine, they're having the party, like before it goes to 10 years later or however long down the road it is, kind of thing. So this movie is just completely over the top, and I kind of love that about it. And I will say, I think that it maybe holds a record for the longest, most drawn out nude chase scene in a horror movie that I can think of. Like, I don't know, but
apparently that was her idea.
Oh, really?
That she was supposed to grab a sheet and like try to do it with a sheet, and it wasn't working, and she just said, "Forget it. I'm gonna be naked." And she like they've like, "Do you regret it?" And she was like, "No way, I don't regret it." And she said, and I agree with her that like, to me, yes, it is a naked chase scene, but like it's a good scene. I'm not like just distracted by the fact that she's naked. Like I'm scared for her. I don't like I'm nervous about what's gonna happen. Like I think she did it really well.
I mean, I guess the reality is if you're in that situation and you're being chased by someone wielding a pickaxe who's clearly insane, you're not as concerned about getting dressed. You're just
and that was kind of her thought. She's like,
right, like yeah. So that's one just kind of noteworthy little thing about this movie, I think. It is funny. Like, I mean, the thing that I like about it too is it doesn't really take itself all that seriously. Like, there was something about this movie, even more so than Valentine, that felt kind of soap opera-y to me. Like, and it's kind of hard to put my finger on it, but I think it's like the small town environment, like the love triangle kind of stuff.
Yeah, the love triangle, the people who are like, "You're gonna sell the mine. This town is relying on you," and you're like,
That reminds me of something, and I wanted to get your take on this, just out of curiosity. So I was looking this up on IMDb, as we tend to do when we're watching these things. Yes. Do you recall what the tagline for this film is?
I do not.
It is, I believe it's "Love Hurts." Hang on, let me make sure that's right.
That would make no. I thought that was Valentine.
Maybe that's Valentine. No, it's different. Yeah. It's "Get Your Heart Broken." That's what it is. And I feel like there's a huge missed opportunity here for "Be Mine," because it's in a mine, right? It's set in a mine, which is terrible.
You would have that tagline. I just feel
I would have that tagline.
would know
would
better.
maybe not find that, but I love really cheesy taglines like that. So, okay, the plot of this movie is it starts out, the central cast of characters are like late high school age, I guess, at that point. They're at a party at a mine. So, this town, wherever it's located, I guess, and I actually looked it up, it's in Pennsylvania where they filmed it,
Yeah.
out of Pittsburgh, but it all thrives on a coal mine, the whole town. So,
Mhm.
they're, as high schoolers do, having a party outside of this mine. And I guess a miner who had been in an accident and gone crazy returns to the mine and just starts
Yes.
killing everybody because reasons.
And you're supposed to know that the main character played by Jensen Ackles,
I was about
he
to ask
is
you about Ackles, because I know that's, yeah.
oh, Jensen Ackles. He is somewhat responsible for the accident that happened. So he was working in the mine. He didn't bleed the lines apparently, and the mine collapsed. And so he gets blamed. But then they find out no, the reason these miners died is not because of him. It's actually because the guy that got trapped in the mine with them killed the other men. So,
Right.
and in the original, I don't think they do this in the reboot. In the original, this guy ate the other people.
Oh, so it's got cannibalism too. All right.
In the original, yes. In the original, I can't remember his name. A crazy miner ate the guys to survive. In the reboot, I think he just kills them. I don't think they ever say he ate them. But yes,
Right.
now he's gone crazy. Oh God, Harry, isn't it Harry something?
It's not Harry like Walsh or I can't remember. Hang on. Look, I've got IMDb
Okay.
pulled up. I'll check it real quick. If you want to keep
But yeah, so
elaborating.
now he's come back and he's killing these teenagers in the mine on Valentine's Day, and we meet the couples, so we're getting a little invested. And they're like, oh, they don't really like Jensen Ackles' character, la la la.
Harry Warden.
Okay.
Harry
So
Warden.
yeah, so he kills like everybody almost, except this small group of couples, these 4 people, and they get away.
Right.
And then it like
Right.
cuts
And
what happens with how do they get away?
they run to the car,
Yeah.
and he throws a pickaxe at the car windshield. It
Yeah.
gets stuck in the car. But doesn't Jensen Ackles' character like distract? He does something. Like he's there, and I guess Warden is going after him while they're trying to get away or something. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah. And then does it just cut ahead to the
Well, remember the cops show up and shoot Harry Warden.
Okay. So I
Ackles
can never remember how that ended. Yes. Okay.
They shoot him multiple times, and then it cuts to 10 years later, or however long it's been. And so one of these guys, Axel, I love the names. Axel is the sheriff of the town.
He's the
new
sheriff
in town.
Mhm.
And he's married to one of the women.
To Sarah, who was originally with Tom Hanader.
Jensen.
Yes, Jensen.
Right. Tom. Right. So he's married
Which is
to
very
her.
similar to the original. In the original, same love triangle exists.
Okay.
They don't in the original, it just starts off with this story. There's no like jump in time. They weren't attacked when they were young, but Tom's character has left and now he's come back to town, and Sarah and Axel are together now. So that love triangle is there in both.
But meanwhile, Axel is also with some employee of his wife at the grocery store, and I can't remember her name either.
Megan. Her name's Megan.
You're really good with these names. I'm so bad at like remembering.
I am an auditory learner, so I remember them saying.
When I teach in a class, it takes me like 3 weeks to remember names. It's like constant. Right? Are you like first week you've got it down, like you just know who everybody is?
Yeah,
okay. That's good. That's good.
Yes, so, I do know my students' names. But yeah, he is sleeping with Megan,
right?
A much younger woman.
Yes, and
who's pregnant.
Right, she's pregnant.
They always are.
And he's got like some old house he got from his dad where they meet up and do their thing, and she gives him a Valentine, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't remember to do that." Or
I didn't get anything for you.
Yeah,
I'm dead. I'm pregnant. Yeah. Oh my god.
So from there, the plot kind of unfolds where is it Tom? Tom is going to sell the mine. All the old school miners and the town in general is mad at him because that's sort of the lifeblood economically of the town. Yeah. And so, from that perspective, I guess there are a lot of motivating factors for why someone could be a killer, right? Like in terms of what's going on and who the person actually is. So it's one of those movies, again, where you don't know who the killer is. You assume it's Harry Warden. Like somehow he's been alive this whole time, even though he got shot multiple times. Even there are some
because
scenes.
you don't actually see him die.
Right.
But then later on, secrets, they did kill him.
Yeah.
They secretly know, but now isn't it his body's missing or something?
They go to his grave and it's basically like sunk in. It's marked by a couple of stones and he's not there anymore.
So is it him now? We don't know.
But even later, when he kills the older guy from Roadhouse, I think it was the guy from Roadhouse. You remember the movie, the Patrick Swayze movie, Roadhouse?
I've not seen that movie.
Oh man, I'm not going to say it's a good movie, but it's entertaining. But anyway, it's the older gentleman who has the meeting with Tom, trying to tell him, you can't sell this town.
Yeah,
and,
okay,
that guy.
yeah.
But there's a scene where he's getting murdered, and he's like, "Oh, it really is you." So like they're trying to sell the idea that like it's legitimately him, and somehow he's still alive, right?
Yes.
And I will say there are some great death scenes in this movie. In particular, to kind of circle back to the whole nude chase when you're in the motel and, he chases her into the room and she's hiding underneath like a bed frame that's up against the wall and he's trying to get her with the pickaxe. And it was all for the 3D.
A lot of gusto, okay? She's not going down without a fight, all right? I really rooted for her.
Yeah, and then there was the other employee at the hotel who got pickaxed up into the ceiling and falls back down, right? So there's all kinds of crazy death scenes. And actually, I think in one sequence that I'm remembering, they go back to Axel's house and their nanny or whatever, their housekeeper, is put in the dryer and she comes out just like roasted. And
that is a throwback to, in the original, somebody gets boiled. And that's when I text you and I was like, have you seen Sleepaway Camp? Because there's a very similar scene in that movie.
I'm adding that to my list. I need to look and see if that's on Netflix because that's one that I know that I need to watch. Like that's been on my radar for years. And
that movie traumatized me as a child.
But do you think, do you think watching it now, would it still be scary or not?
No, God, no. I could watch that thing before I go to bed. No.
Yeah.
It's traumatizing because my mother freeze framed on one of the final scenes while I was crying. That's what was so traumatizing about it. Okay.
Nice.
It was my mother, not the
Was that worse than the Chucky doll under the bed, or was that like on par?
I mean, I don't remember the Chucky doll as much. It might, but it's probably not as worse as watching The Exorcist when I was 8. I feel like that was probably the worst thing. Or watching, I can't say it out loud, but it starts with a C, even younger than that.
Okay.
I can't say it.
Because it's scary or because it's not Cujo?
Because if I say it, I can't say it. It starts with a C and it rhymes with dandy. Dandy fan. It rhymes with dandy fan.
Right. 3 times in front of a mirror.
I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Yeah. The movie that really freaked me out when I was a kid, I was like, maybe 9 or 10, I caught the original Nightmare on Elm Street on TV. Like, and even though, it was heavily edited, but like, I remember like that night or the next night or whatever, I was laying in my bed and just the way my parents' house is set up, like the door to my room was open and there was a shadow from some kind of object down the hall or something, but it looked like the outline of his hat and his face. And like, I just laid there and stared at it for like 2 hours, like just not moving,
After we watched The Exorcist, our house was just down the road from a train track. So anytime a train would go by, my bed would shake. And so after I saw that movie, I'm like, oh God, it's my time. The devil's here. So
peace the whole thing. Like,
Yeah. So yes. All that to say, yes, you should see Sleepaway Camp.
Okay. I'm going to watch it. Maybe we'll
review that. There's also a boiling scene that is why they did the woman in the dryer in the reboot.
So now before I get back to, or I guess get to the point of like the reveal, right? Where this all kind of ends up. Like, I mean, are there any other moments in the movie that you're like, we really just need to talk about this? Like anything that would, and I'm sure I've glossed over like a ton of stuff, just for the sake of brevity, but just anything that you were like, yeah, I wanted to comment on this.
I really liked the grocery store chase scene.
Yeah,
I thought that was done really well. And then even them getting into the back room, the only part that bothers me is they do this very elaborate, we got to block the door, we got to get out. And then she hits the alarm. And I'm like, wait, there was an alarm on the wall the whole time? Why didn't you hit that earlier? I don't understand. So I did really like that scene. I thought it was suspenseful.
The only thing about that scene, and obviously you don't know the layout of this grocery store, but I felt like he went from the door to the window really quickly. Like she starts climbing out the window and they're like, oh my gosh, get back, because he's not there anymore. But it was like a few seconds, like he's outside. But like, again, that's a logistic thing that's stupid for me to even nitpick on it. Admittedly. So that was a really good scene. Yeah, I like that. That was great. trying to think what other like really good deaths were in this movie too that would have stood out. I mean, there were a good bit, a lot of like pickaxe through the head. So the bald guy
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
into his truck, that happens. He kills the older guy at his house by putting the pickaxe like through his jaw, like the bottom of his jaw or
Yeah.
something like that.
Butchers the heck out of Megan. And don't
What?
forget,
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
we've not even addressed that like the whole point of the murders apparently and the craziness is that the hearts are being cut out and delivered in candy boxes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Right. So they
Like
show up to the police station
not
and,
just like when we're killing people, we are also cutting out hearts and delivering them, which is a big part of the original as well.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, so this one obviously is like leagues gorier than Valentine, in a
Yes.
lot of ways. Okay, so this all eventually culminates in sort of this moment where this long chase is sort of ensued. And actually, I should say there's a car sequence leading up to this where Tom is driving the car and
It's
then
basically not coming out of Tom or Axel
right.
because it can't be. However, they figured out it's got to be one of them, and we keep getting switched on. Like, well, it's got to be him because we found a picture. No, it's got to be him because he knows something. Like it's Tom or Axel, and who's Sarah gonna pick?
That's what they should have called it, Tom or Axel. That would have been a
Tom
good
or
title for this.
Tom or Axel.
So there's a car crash, and what's the lady's name that crashes the car? Sarah. Sarah crashes it on purpose to get away because Axel calls and he's basically like, "You got to get out of this car, like right now."
Yeah. Like she now believes Tom is the killer.
And Tom is like, "Don't listen to him. He's trying to get you to turn against me, etc." So it's kind of that play back and forth. And eventually they end back up in the mine because, of course, it's got to come full circle back to that location. And there's kind of this standoff moment where it reminds me of certain movies where you've got like two different clones or something. And it's like, which one's the real, like, sort of thing, you know? But at one point, and you made a really good point about this, Axel is basically like, "All right, just shoot us both because I can't prove to you." Yeah. And that was a good indicating factor of what was going on there. So come to find out, Tom is like, I don't know if multiple personality is the term that I would use for this, or if he's just
dissociative identity. Who knows?
Basically, yeah, that's probably the better term. He just sort of goes into this Harry Warden persona and kills people. And I don't know that we ever get a real justification for why. Like at one point, Axel is like, "That really is you in there, isn't it?" As if he's like possessed. There's like this whole like kind of,
there is this weird nod to like, yes, there's a possession. And I think there's like some, because then they do the whole flashbacks to show us like, see, it really was him. And you get to see the scenes from a different perspective on how he made it look like it wasn't him, but it was. And then there's supposed to be this moment, I think, in the original, I don't know where he, maybe either when he comes back, I don't know when the moment was where he decided he was going to become a crazy person, but he does. And he takes the mask from the grave, and that's the one he's been wearing.
So I'm sure that had all kinds of like rotten stink.
I was very concerned.
Like, so it wasn't like the most original ending in the world, but just based on sheer entertainment value, like I would watch it if it were on, like,
Yeah, because I do feel like I did not expect that was gonna be the reveal. That like, because he truly believes like it is. He says like, "He's right behind you. Shoot him!" And then they're like, "Dude, there's nobody here." And then you're like, "Oh my god, it's in his head." Like that's not where I thought that was gonna go. So I definitely liked that. But then once you realize it is him, you're like, yeah, okay, that tracks.
So this is kind of a tangent a little bit, but have you ever noticed in these movies that like the character that's supposed to be the protagonist, right? Like even if it ends up being the killer, they always have like the most like plainclothes outfit on, like they're the most like down to earth person. Like in this movie, he's got like green camo pants and like a plain t-shirt and a hoodie.
In the trivia, they say like the jacket that he's wearing in that movie is the same jacket he wears in Supernatural, which is just like a very basic like cargo jacket, which is very true that his character just wears those types of clothes in Supernatural. But in Supernatural, he's not evil. Mostly.
Okay. And I have not watched Supernatural. Should I watch Supernatural?
The first 5 seasons, yes, you should.
Okay.
The 10 after that, don't.
Would you say supernaturally good, Kim?
I would not say that. You would say that. I would not.
So let me ask this: do you like one of these movies better than the other?
As a film, I like Valentine better. Like as someone who wants to watch a movie that I would like to write or think about in that way. But as like a movie that I just want on as like entertainment, I would watch My Bloody Valentine. And quite honestly, I've seen My Bloody Valentine more times. I
Yeah.
own it on
I
DVD.
know that's
Sorry,
creepy,
the
right?
door just opened behind you.
I was using ESP to open the door because no, that's Lucy who just.
I figured.
Well, maybe it was Rocket. Maybe it was our cat. I don't know. Anyway,
It
it
better
was
be an animal. That's what
one
I'm
of
gonna
the
say.
animals that roams our house.
Animal. So I do feel like My Bloody Valentine. It's like the one you show at like a party. It's like, hey, everybody, come on over because we're gonna
Yeah.
watch this movie. Because
Well,
it's gonna be entertaining and a little funny, and then maybe
this is the
some
kind of
gross
movie
stuff.
that, like, if I could have gotten away renting it for my 13th or 14th birthday party, like, it would have been like the
Yeah.
best thing ever to watch, right? Like,
Yes.
it's just
Yes.
that kind of movie. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I think those are two solid options for horror Valentine's Day movies because there's not a whole lot of other
Absolutely.
ones to choose from, maybe, but I think they actually are not that bad. They're both pretty good.
And in the original My Bloody Valentine, and I feel bad giving this away, but the killer is
It's okay.
different.
Oh, okay.
The
It's
killer is Axel.
really so they and do
Yup.
you think that with the reboot they changed that just because people that are familiar with the
Maybe to
original?
really throw him off, I
Yeah.
don't know, because it's kinda similar in the reboot, like, it gets down to Sarah, Tom, and Axel, and who is it gonna be? And because I've seen the reboot, I was like, "Is it? Is it Tom?" Like, I thought that's where we were going with this, but no, and it's Axel because Harry Warden killed Axel's dad in front of him when
Oh,
he was a kid,
okay.
and that traumatized him,
Right.
and so now he's killing all these people
Okay. So
that are
that
his
yeah.
friends. But
So do you think that the remake is better than the original?
I
Did you stay awake during the
do
remake?
because I'm a person living in 23 and watching
Right.
a movie that was made in 1981 is like, even though like it had some solid moments and like I according to the trivia, Quentin Tarantino like likes the original My Bloody Valentine and like it's on his top list of movies
Okay.
apparently. So
That's
I don't
interesting.
know, but I do think I don't know. I think the original is worth watching because just like for the same reason you'd watch the original Friday the 13th.
Right. Just the
You
history behind
know?
it. Like just
Yes.
yeah, essentially.
Yeah. Knowing
Um
that what you're getting is probably gonna be a little ridiculous at times.
so Kim, I was thinking ahead about our next movie.
Is
When
there a
is
St. Patrick's Day one?
Leprechaun?
Actually, Leprechaun there is.
Or if we want to get crazy, Leprechaun in Space, which I think is the fourth one. Have you heard
I
about that?
didn't know there was a
Oh yeah.
leprechaun in space.
Let me just make sure I've got the title right, but there totally is a Leprechaun film set in space. Let me make sure. And there was actually wasn't there a reboot of this not long ago?
I don't think so, but maybe
Yeah,
there was. I don't
yeah.
know.
Look, Leprechaun 4 in space.
Oh my god.
It's an hour and 35 minutes. It has a review score of 3.5 out of 10.
That makes
It
sense.
says our deadly leprechaun is in space to woo a beautiful princess who is impressed with his gold and desires to separate him from it. So anyway, maybe it's set in the future. I think what we should do is talk about it and then compare it to Jason X, which would be
Well, I
highly
mean, that's the only
entertaining.
thing it makes me think of is like, what do we just
Yeah,
at some point we just go into space with all these franchises? We're gonna get Freddy in space, Ghost Space in
if we're
space.
lucky.
They all just
well,
meet in some planet
well, I
somewhere.
mean, Scream eventually. I mean, they're in New York now. I mean, I guess they could go to every major city and eventually get to space. Maybe Scream on the moon
Eventually.
or something. I don't
Scream in
know, but
Shanghai, Scream in
yeah,
Tokyo, Scream in space.
yeah, that makes sense. Well, I think we should do a Leprechaun movie. Maybe not that one, but maybe that one. Actually, I don't know. I don't know.
I've never seen the original Leprechaun start to finish.
Really, I think I've seen it one time from start to
I've
finish.
seen like parts of it. I know the gist of it, but I've never seen it start to finish. And I will say it irks me that I don't enjoy like creatures, like little not I love people who kill other people. That's my jam. I love just
That's who you love, people that kill other people,
yes, just be a person in a mask killing other people. Unless you're
right?
Freddy and then you're an
Well, maybe
exception.
we should watch the original. If you've never, I mean, are you like, I don't want to watch it, like,
No,
or
I will definitely watch the original. I just know that I'm gonna be like bleh about it, which is
yeah,
good. It should be. That's a good thing.
yeah, okay. We'll do a Leprechaun movie. Maybe that'll be good.
Okay.
Anything
And
else
then there's
about?
also the new M. Night Shyamalan movie
Yes, yes, I do want to see
that I
that.
need to
Have you
see.
seen it? You haven't seen it yet, have you?
No, not yet. Just it came out like the 3rd or something, but I
And it's
do
gotten
wanna
like
see that.
moderately good reviews, like better
Okay.
than most of his recent stuff. So,
Okay.
that's good. We should watch that for sure. I would try to
Yeah.
talk Erica into it, but there's just no way. There's no way she's going to see Knock at the Cabin. I do want to see it though. But if we see
Yeah.
that before St. Patrick's Day, we can definitely do a review of that. That would be
Yeah.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll see if there's anything else. I was actually thinking about going through my old like DVDs, like Stay Alive and Dead Silence and like all those horror movies that came out in the early 2000s that I like went to, Media Play and like Best Buy and bought off the shelves. Like I've been thinking about going through those and being like, maybe we should talk about some of those,
Yeah.
but we'll
We could
see.
totally, and then a lot
I've
of
got
those,
a lot of
like,
obscure horror movies that I used to watch in like middle school and high school.
and I know we were talking about Dead Silence because of that ventriloquist dummy that was for sale on Facebook. Like, I've never seen that, so I would totally watch that and talk about it.
Yeah, that was
For sure.
that was all of a very similar time period, like around Darkness Falls, which is one of my other favorite horror movies, where like using like legends, like folklore was the
Yeah.
horror, and now the legend is coming to haunt you and kill you. That was very common at that time. But
Yeah. That'd
so
be
a lot
cool.
out there. Yeah.
Well, we'll be back soon with some kind of movie
Hmm.
review, one or the other.
Hmm.
Kim, as
Yes.
always, it was stimulating.
Yes.
We'll reconvene soon with our next review.
Hmm. Thank you.